call this meeting to order. I ask you all to rise for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Please be seated. Prior to the meeting tonight, we had a meeting in closed session, and there is a motion coming forward. Councillor Watton.
Motion reads as follows.
You got your microphone on?
It's for the advisory committee appointment, and the motion reads as follows: that Linda Gasky, Jillian Daly, Sierra Howie, Cecil Lamrock, and Peter Russell be appointed to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, that the residency requirement be exempt for Bonnie Blackstock, and that Miss Blackstock be appointed to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, that Karen Katawaki, Melanie Wright, Joan Swain, and Casey Van Shagen be appointed to the Blackstock Recreation Complex Advisory Committee, that Bonnie Lebovic, Kirk Swain, Tracy Nicholford, and Robert Hunt be appointed to the Community Grants Advisory Committee, that Matthew McKenzie, Jordan Mackay, Kathy Post, Brett Puckrin, Mandeep Sandhu, and Marvin Stevenson be appointed to the Economic Development Advisory Committee, that Stephen Ardron, Jeff Carpenter, Kiko Liu, Richard Sarek, Stephen Martins, and Arnis Pukitis be appointed to the Environmental Advisory Committee, that Carolyn Hall, Jordan Christie, John Mackey, Mark Mahowski, Debbie Balika, Rob Maservi, Barbara Cartine, Pat Bunting, Dave Mowat, Aaron O'Toole, or Stacey Haley, Lindsay Park, or alternate, Beth McEachran, Jane Timoshuk, Colin Higgins, Terry Foss, and Aaron Christie be appointed to the Healthy Lakes Hugog Steering Committee, that Guy Latry, Peter Hividston, Dan Stone, Marina Brock, Jasmine Stein, and Jonathan Van Bilsen be appointed to the Heritage Advisory Committee, that Julie Curran, Martha Casson, Lois McIntosh, Tracy McGarry, Valerie Cranmer, and John Lusick be appointed to the Housing Advisory Committee, that Jack Doak, Charlotte Hale, Marion Myers, and Carrie Nicholson be appointed to the Tourism Advisory Committee, and that Councillor Kiesebrink be replaced as the Council Representative on the Tourism Advisory Committee with Councillor Watton, and Councillor Guido be appointed as the alternate Council Representative on the Tourism Advisory Committee, and that any advisory committees with vacancies continue to be advertised for members. That's my motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Guido. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof? Councillor McDougall?
I need to disclose pecuniary interest on 9.2.3 Dev-2019-006.
And the nature thereof?
I have property that's nearby.
Thank you. We'll note that. I also want to announce that Councillor Angus Ross sends his regrets. He did do well in his race in Australia. It's good to know, and I'm sure he'll want to tell you all about it when he gets back. Thank you. Any announcements from Council? Councillor Brown?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just a mention again for Big Brothers and Big Sisters Annual Wing Night. Being a member for some years now as a mentor with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, always a good time. It's a great cause, certainly special and close to my heart, and that's February 23rd upcoming.
Councillor Kiesebrink?
Yes, Scugog Council for the Arts President Marion Myers has reported record sales for the exhibition of work by artist Susan Tiver called Life Unfolded, The Power of Pastels, and that exhibition is actually continuing on through February 23rd. You can see a wonderful work of arts there. And also, Palmer Park, a new play about Port Perry, is starting this week. So the Barillians are proud to present a short historical documentary series with moments that are inspired playwright Graham Powell to open a brand new play. And performances start February 14th, go through to the 16th, and the 22nd to the 23rd. So it's definitely a heartwarming, warm night for Valentine's, and we want to make sure people know about that.
Thank you. Any further announcements? Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would just like to remind everybody that this Family Day weekend here in the Township of Scugog, we have a lot going on, specifically at the Community Center. They are doing a Family Day Passport to Fun. You can go on the Township's website or their Facebook page to find more details, but to give a very brief highlight, join us for bigger and better Family Day fun this year, all in support of Jumpstart. We have taken over the entire arena this year for more activities. They are collecting donations for Jumpstart, which stays right here in our community. There are booths from Big Brothers Big Sisters, Canadian Tire. The Lookout will be there, and there's lots of skating programs available, so please come out and join in some Family Day festivities, and that runs from 10 until 1, and then from 1 to 3 there is a free public skating sponsored by Canadian Tire.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall?
I just wanted to mention as well that Central Lake Ontario Conservation Authority has free events on Family Day for everyone to come out and enjoy. There's a listing on their website at cloca.ca, I believe it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate the folks at the Anchor Point Fusion Restaurant. They had their grand opening today, and some of us got to sample some of their appetizers, and if the appetizers are anything, I would say their food will be excellent. Thank you.
Anything further from council? The public skate by Lindsay Park was at the arena yesterday, and Councillor Guido and I had a moment to chat with Premier Doug Ford. Very brief moment, but anyway, that was well attended, and I'm sure that there was lots of discussion throughout the afternoon. Also, there was another event yesterday afternoon, Stews and Brews at Old Flame, which was quite successful. A lot of people, visitors from out of town, coming to that. And I'm pleased that last week I had the opportunity to attend a roundtable discussion in Whitby, at the Whitby Chamber of Commerce offices, with MP Matt General and MP Colin Carey. Matt General is the Shadow Minister for Infrastructure. So I had an excellent opportunity to discuss issues of the Green Belt and what we're dealing with. That is a provincial one, and it was MPs there, but they still need to understand that we have pressures because we're unable to grow. Love being in the Green Belt, and I always stress that, but it does pose some problems with us to remain sustainable. So, thank you. Are there any announcements from staff? Okay, thank you. Then, pardon? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to announce that next Wednesday that we will have a budget open house at the library. We will be presenting the budget today, but we will have an open house where residents are able to come and ask questions. Likely start at 6:30. I think in my report it says 6 to 7:30. Another report says 6:30 to 8. So we will do the presentation at 6:30 just to ensure that everyone can make it.
Thank you. Yes, everyone is invited. Moving on, presentations. I will put you on the spot now, Director Valentin. While you're coming up to the table, I just want to thank you and your staff and all of the staff, senior staff here at the office here, for all that was put into this. I know that you had considered Speak Up Durham. You considered council's requests, and there's been a lot of input and a lot of time put into the procedure, and I want to thank you all for your contributions and all of the hard work that you put into it. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council, staff, residents, and members of the media. I'd like to present to you today the draft budget for the Township of Scugog. This budget's a little different than what I've done in the past. That is, it incorporates both the operating and the capital, so it is quite extensive. So the way that I will present my PowerPoint to you would be to break it up into two pieces. We'll do the operating first, and then we'll move forward to the capital.
Okay.
Today's budget is the budget process is a lengthy process, and it starts pretty much in June, where we have a budget timetable that's created for internal staff, as well as presented to the public and council. So that process begins in June with the timetable. This year, again, for the third year in a row, we've had an online budget survey, which ran for the month of September. The results were presented in December, and they are also on our website on a budget page. There's a link to the budget survey results. We collect a council list of items. So this was an extensive list as it was started in September and carried forward. We had items that were brought forward from the last council as well as this council that we incorporated into this budget. The draft budget here is being presented tonight to council and is also posted on our website. We will be hosting an open house, as I just mentioned, next Wednesday, and then the final presentation and council approval is scheduled for Monday, March 4th. So this draft operating budget, I'm happy to report, meets council's budget guideline target that was provided in December. The net operating increase of 2.4%, which tied into the Consumer Price Index at the time, roads infrastructure levy of 1%, and a new vehicle and equipment allocation of 0.5% to come up to the total of 3.9%. Results from our budget survey did indicate that members of the public were in favor of continuing the roads and other infrastructure levy, as well as the implementation of a new vehicle and equipment levy. The total operating budget that we're proposing consists of the various departments of $12,924,700. It's made up of various departments, with the largest portion going to Public Works, which is where your roads are. Graphically, in the pie, you can see that Public Works, if I had $10, that's how it would be split. $4.47 would go to Community Services Public Works. That's the largest piece of the pie. Fire and Emergency Services get $1.39, and Community Service Recreation just under $1. The operating budget being presented here, in the past, the Region of Durham has already had the opportunity to pass their budget, and we would be in a position then to identify what the potential increase would be to the average resident of the township. However, this year they have postponed their budget a little bit. They will be bringing theirs forward on March 27th. I have had discussions with the Region of Durham, and they did bring forward a budget guideline themselves last meeting, I believe. So the region's increase is estimated at 2.2%. Now, in discussions with the region, did discuss with them how they would like me to present their portion, because it is still an estimate. So based on that, we have implemented a 2.2% increase on the region's side based on last year's billing on the total residential tax bill. Also included is the education piece. The last couple of years there's been no change. I have not received any indication right now of what the education rate may be. So for the assumption of this presentation today, we're assuming that there's no change to the education portion of the tax. So of the full dollar here, we can see that the split of the residential tax bill, 56% of the tax bill goes to the Region of Durham, 15% to the school board, and 29% it stays here with the Township of Scugog. Based on the numbers and the estimates that were provided to me, which indicates that the average residential taxpayer will see an estimated increase of $104 per year. That's about $2 per week, or a cup of coffee. The tax burden by property class, based on our current value assessment, you'll see that we are still very heavy on the residential side, so 85% of the tax burden does fall to the residential class. This graph shows that farmland is 2.5%, commercial 9.1%, and percent. Within this budget, we've been able to identify what we heard loud and clear on our survey was that roads are important to residents of this municipality. Working through the budget, we have an increase in road investment of $303,000 in the operating, $105,000 increase in the gravel itself. We have incorporated in the capital side $2.7 million related to roads. What I can emphasize is, in total, the operating, what I'm showing here in the operating is an increase in the roads allocation. In our operating budget of $12 million, there's approximately $5.8 million that is allocated to roads specifically, or about 44% of your operating budget. That's a significant dollar value. We're continuing with our roads allocation. This year, that amounts to $122,800. In total, the allocation to the roads reserve with this $122,800 amounts to $577,000 going to the roads reserve. The new vehicle and equipment levy amounts to about $61,400, and so we're just showing some of the operating budget impacts here. So the roads investment, the new allocation for vehicles and equipment. What we're also projecting in this budget is an increase in the projected planning revenue. That's with more development coming online. So that's an increase in revenue of $125,900. Built into this budget as well, we have been notified by the provincial government that our grant, our Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, will likely be decreasing. Last year's actuals was $1,273,800. That is fully built into our operating budget. With the indication that this grant will likely be decreasing, we have actually built in a decrease of $127,400 in this budget, so we are taking it down. I do speak to it in my report that if we are successful in gaining the full amount of the grant that we received last year, I'm proposing that this $127,400 that's built into the budget be allocated to the asset reserves, being roads, vehicle and equipment, and building and facilities. If we actually happen to get less than what I've budgeted, we may have to come back for further direction from council, which we may have to make some adjustments to the budget if the grant that we receive is significantly less. Other major items in this operating budget, we've increased the bank and investment interest income by about $100,000. Additional revenue corporately due to an increase in our user fee permits and application of $89,500. So as a part of our review annually, and we did this, I think, in December, all the departments review the user fees and charges that the township charges, and we do a comparison with all neighboring municipalities or similar municipalities to see if we're in line. As a result of that, we were able to increase some of our user fees and permit charges, and that is resulting in an increase in our budget of revenue. Also in this budget, our estimated salary and wage increases of $122,000. The council remuneration increase that was also brought forward to council, the elimination of the tax-free amounts to about $38,300, including all benefits. And what's also included in this is 2 allocations from growth, one for an allocation to the major facilities reserve of $21,800, and another allocation for future staffing needs related to growth of $35,000. So that, in essence, is your operating budget. And what I propose is perhaps go through department by department if anyone has any questions.
Do you want to take questions now or go through the departments? Go through the departments?
Sure.
Okay.
So I'll just pull it up here. So, what you have before you is the summary of all departments and the change over change. So the operating budget shows the budget from last year versus the projected budget that we're bringing forward to you. And the document here of all departments shows a summary of the changes. Are there any questions on summary or any of the departments?
Any questions? Okay. Go ahead.
No questions?
No questions.
On operating?
On all of operating? Councillor Brown.
Through you, Your Worship, I just wanted to know the decrease in the ONPF funding. When are we going to find out? That's critical, right? That's almost 10% of the budget. Huge amount, right?
Absolutely. Through you, Madam Mayor. I am on a distribution list from the province. I have not received indication from them when they have decided. I did try and look up this afternoon if there was any indication. There was a letter released in January from Vic Fideli that they're working on it and they'll get us the information as soon as possible.
So the amount of money that is coming in now is still a reasonable percentage of money that we're getting from the province.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we did receive one installment with the caveat that it's for cash flow purposes only. This does not indicate that, this does not mean that you will be getting this money, the full amount. So it was a quarter of the amount that we received last year.
Further questions? Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just suggest make sure that we cover all the council's questions. If we could just stop at each of the departments, if you could put them up one at a time and go through, no questions, move on to the next.
Okay.
So on.
That's fine. Good.
Are there any questions on the mayor and council budget?
No questions?
Office of the CAO and Human Resources?
Any questions? I just might note that our director has offered to meet with any councillor that wanted to meet with you, and I thank you very much for doing that, because I know that many councillors did take advantage of that. So for those of you who are listening and in the audience, if there's not a lot of questions, that's because Diane's been very busy answering questions for the last several days, so thank you. Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you can go back up to, yes, right there. New Employee Fitness Wellness Program. Can you speak to that, please?
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor. So it was brought up at last year's staff annual meeting that staff were looking to through our Health and Wellness or Engagement Committee, staff were asking if there was any opportunity to have part of a health fitness reimbursement. So basically, Human Resources is looking to implement a policy with regards to this, that staff, if they are involved in some sort of extracurricular, that they would have a fitness reimbursement of 50% of the cost up to an amount of $100 annually.
Okay, because I was going to question then, $3,600
Right,
wouldn't
so
really cover.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So we don't know what the uptake will be, so we didn't want to assume everyone would participate, and
it's capped at 100.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything further? Okay, please go ahead. Oh, Councillor Keith-Brink?
Through you, Madam Mayor, in the Office of the CEO and HR budget, there is a one-time adjustment of $20,000. I believe that is professional services related to CUPE. Can you speak to that, please?
Correct. So that, through you, Madam Mayor, that is with regards to, we do have CUPE negotiations on this year, so that's done every 4 years. So that is to ensure that we obtain legal counsel to ensure that we're in line with our negotiations.
Good. Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, under the Office of CAO, I wanted to just make sure Council and the public recognize that this is the first contribution to the Major Facilities Reserve that Council established, so this budget will make that $21,800 contribution, which is 25% of growth assessment that we anticipate.
Thank you. Further? Okay, please go ahead.
Corporate services?
Councilor McDougall?
Through you, Madam Mayor, corporate services, page 52, I believe of the, there's a, and I got page 52, I think, budget, corporate service, operating budget summary, corporate services, says new smiley mascot. Can you speak to that?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. As part of our rebranding exercise last year, Smiley the Turtle was brought forward as the Township of Scugog mascot, and what we're proposing this year is to actually have a costume made for, or to show at various events in town, Canada Day being one of them.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have $10,000 allocated for a costume for a mascot. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct.
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mayor. Just with respect to that estimate, just wanted to let Council know that we did go out and obtain, actually it ended up 3 estimates to make sure that we had a pretty solid number here. So I know that seems like a large amount, but it's in line with the estimates that we received. I would say that the average is around 8,000, and we put in 10 just in case there's a little bit of contingency there. This it would be like a professional costume, something like the one the fire department uses for Sparky, only this would be Smiley. It's for festivals, events, parades, meant to interact with families and children.
Thank you.
Any further? Okay, go ahead.
Any questions for finance?
Questions for finance? Tab 4.
Page 55.
Okay. Did you have something, Councilor Guido? Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I apologize, Director Valentin, I didn't ask you this when we met earlier today, but there's an increase in bank service charges due to the EFT implementation. I was under the impression that we wouldn't incur more costs when we move to, this is the electronic fund, like this is being able to, what are those fees that we're incurring now?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So that's actually, there's 2 things there. There's the EFT, so there is a file charge that goes to the bank. So we will recognize savings on printing of checks and such, but this is an actual fee that there's a per unit charge as well as a file charge that goes through on every EFT file.
Okay.
But the Perfect Minds also, in conjunction with that, is the machines that are held at the recreation center. We do pay all the banking charges on those, so that is an additional fee as well.
Okay, but the efficiencies that we have by not printing in is far greater?
Significant.
Okay, yes,
Right,
thank you.
Anything further? Councilor Kaiserbrink?
We have an increase in minutes of settlement with ARB hearing costs. We did speak about that in our discussion. I'm just wondering if you can clarify that just a little bit further, please?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. The ARB, the Assessment Review Board, so what happens is throughout the beginning of the year, the township will receive a file from MPAC with all the current value assessments of all the properties within the township that are to be taxed. Residents as well as companies have the opportunity to challenge that assessment, so they bring forward an application. So the budget amount that is listed here, $80,000, is an increase over last year's, and that's because we have several large commercial properties dating back to 2012 that are still at the Assessment Review Board. What happens is, from the years from 2012 onward, we have been taxing them at that current value assessment. However, if the Assessment Review Board comes back and lowers those amounts, we are obliged to pay them to refund them back those differences. So based on the estimate that was provided to us by MPAC with our outstanding applications, this was a good value, a good number bringing forward that we could be on the hook for.
To you, Madam Mayor, so we have to be prepared with monies available in the event that we're ordered to reimburse monies that were already collected from these entities if their valuations are reassessed lower. Is that a correct understanding?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Okay, moving on.
Okay. Fire and Emergency Services, page 57.
Questions? Councilor McDougall?
Through you, Madam Mayor, next page is page 58, and it has 2018 actuals is 1.562 versus the budgeted was 1.758. What's the difference in the 2018 actuals is my first question.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So we are still working on our estimated actuals. We won't have those completed until our audit is complete at the end of April. We'll bring that forward in June. So I don't know if all of the actual entries have been posted to these accounts yet. I can speak to the revenue section that there's additional revenue that was brought in this year that wasn't budgeted, so that actually shows as a positive. And I think the payroll number in, if you look in the second section, and the fire department volunteer payroll, they're substantially lower than the budget amount as well, and that's based on call usage.
Further?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to follow up, so we need to carry that call usage forward for 2019 just in case in our budget, because we may not have a reduced call usage in 2019. Is that fair to say?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, we don't carry forward any unused budget. That will go through to operating surplus. What the chief has done in creating or building up his budget, and what all department heads look at, are the past 3 years trend and try and budget accordingly based on the past 3 year trends, but also based on what work plans are, or what the expectation may be. So the budget amount is a little bit higher based on, I believe there's additional training that's required. So the training for the volunteers, we do pay them for their time when they are being trained.
Further?
Thank you. No, I think that answers my question. Thanks.
Any other questions? Councilor Brown?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and I'm not sure who to direct this question to, MSIFN negotiations, fire and emergency services, where are we at with that?
I can answer that. We are meeting again, and the negotiations are going very well.
Thank you.
Okay, further? Okay, please go ahead.
Public Works, page 60.
Any questions? Councilor Kieserbrink?
I believe maybe our CAO could answer, but just in summary, between the operating and capital budget, with the increased investment that we have for 2019 and our total roads budget overall, I know in our budget survey, the public, their primary concern was our roads. Can you speak to encompassing in our total budget, what are we looking at for roads overall?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, yeah, I'd be pleased to do that. And as you mentioned, through our recent Speak Up Scugog survey, we heard loud and clear that the community would like more investment in roads. And I am pleased to report that this budget goes a long way to furthering investments in our roads and improving our roads. So some examples of that, and the Treasurer did talk briefly in her presentation, but increases in the roads budget for 2019, there's an increase of $224,600, over $200,000 in the operating budget, and our capital budget is, as you heard, over $2.7 million. So increases in roads for 2019, new investment is in the area of $3 million. Additionally, the total road budget, that's just increases in investment. The total road budget related to roads in the operating budget is $5.8 million approximately, which is almost half of the entire operating budget, it's 44%. And when you take the capital budget for 2019, which is $2.7 million, you have a combined $8.5 million investment in 2019 into roads. And the capital budget, which you've heard, is about $4.3 million. More than half of that, 63%, is devoted to roads. 8.5 in the total budget, and increases in the area of $3 million.
Thank you for asking the question. It's evident that we've heard what the people have to say. We've heard what we heard last fall, and staff and council are prepared to act on it. Thank you. Anything further on, yes, Councillor Brown?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just subsequent to that, I'm one of the several million people in this area who want their roads done properly. I understand that there have been things budgeted for repairs in certain roads. There is a list of that that's accessible online. Would that be correct?
To you, Madam Mayor, the capital budget is online, is posted online, which shows a listing of all the projects and provides detail sheets on what the project encompasses. Yes.
Okay, and just subsequent to that, then, how do I get my road, if it's my road or somebody else's road, how do I get my road on that list? What do people do in order to get their roads fixed, I guess, is the broad banded
Maybe Director
question.
Coleman could answer that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to the council, through the Mayor to the councillor. In 2017, we brought a report forward because there's a lot of roads out there that need to be work done. So we brought forward a methodology to prioritize roads to council and to people so that it's done in a consistent manner. We don't want someone that just because a lot of people on that road complain about their road, for that one to be the first one done. It should be done based on valid reasons. So the list we came up with are, first of all, we do a roads needs study every 3 to 5 years, in which we assess every road within the township, the condition of the road, and what needs to be done. So that's one of the first things we look at, is if it's on that list or not. We also look at the classification of the road. So an arterial road would take higher precedence over a local street or a court. We also look at the maintenance cost. Are we spending a lot of money to maintain that road compared to another road? Would there be a lot more savings to fix this road or more savings to fix that road? We look at traffic volumes. We also look at if there's already a phase projects underway. So if we've said we're doing a 3-phase project, we agreed that we would continue to do all the phases of that project. We're trying to take advantage of external funding sources whenever we can, such as development charges, federal and provincial grants. And we look at cost-sharing opportunities with the region and developers. We also want to do hard surface roads to repair the ones that are in poor condition before we hard surface more roads. So we have a fairly robust way of evaluating roads. If people feel that there's information that we don't have, and they bring that forward, they bring a road forward to us, we will consider it and evaluate it and prioritize it with our methodology. And if it does seem to be a higher priority than other roads, we would put it on the list, but it wouldn't be probably till the end of the list. So maybe 6 years out now if it was added to the list.
Thank you.
And I think that's, to be fair, I think that's the fairest way of dealing with the roads. It's easier on everybody if we just do the ones that really need to be done first. Any further questions? Councillor McDougall, and then Councillor Guido.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at the roads budget, and it's $194,000 for the operating side, the $194,300 for the increased amount spent on the roads. It's at the top of page 60. When I look at that $194,300,000 as compared to the 2019 budget is 3.34%, and we're proposing a 3.9% increase.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. Which page are you on?
That one right there. 194 at the top. 194,300 divided by 5.782900 is about roughly 3.34% and less than our budgeted increase in taxes.
So we would do it over the 2018 budget?
The 2019.
Right, but the increase would be based on the 2018 budget as the denominator?
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have my calculator in front of me.
It's probably slightly higher then. All I'm saying is it's not actually much more than our proposed increase, so we're really not increasing our amount that we're spending on roads. We're just staying with our level of taxation increase.
To you, Madam Mayor, so we are increasing because we have the roads levy, which is pushing it through over to capital. And there's been shifts throughout various departments to actually have more of a focus on the roads. So although in public works may only look like 3.9, there may be other areas that didn't require the full amount of the budget, so there's been a shift as well.
So through you, Madam Mayor, but back to Councillor Brown's question, we're moving the money into the reserves, but the residents are worried about driving on the roads, not the reserves necessarily. They want to understand how the $105,000 in additional gravel will apply to their road.
Director Coleman, can I pass that over to you?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. I mean, we have put additional investments into the roads, but as Director Valentin was saying, we did find some savings in the roads area as well. Because we are putting more money in reserves, we're able to do more capital projects, and we've also gotten grants for projects such as bridge projects. So because we were able to invest more in our bridges through other methods, we've been able to decrease how much we're spending on bridges in our operating budget. So that's one example of we are investing more in gravel, but we found savings in other places. So that's maybe why the increase isn't as high as you might expect.
It's actually, Councillor McDougall, it's actually $224,600 in the operating budget increase, in addition to what we already, in the base budget was $5.8 million. So we are investing in total in this budget $8.5 million, which is a significant change in our practice over the last number of years. We are tackling more roads this year than we have in the past. So we're trying to make a dent in the roads deficit.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. Further, Councillor Giesebring? I'm sorry, Councillor Guido, you were first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question on the slight increase in sign budgets. Is this based on the fact there's many streets out there that are missing a street name sign, or is this for something else?
Please go ahead, Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, this is just based on a 3-year actuals of how much we've spent on signage. So if you know of missing street signs in a particular location, let us know, and we will get those signs up.
Right,
But this is just based on actuals.
Okay, and I think there were several identified, and prior to the election, I think the stance was we were going to do a review and see what streets were missing signs or whatever. I was just wondering if that was tying into the missing street signs, that's all.
No,
okay.
It's not.
All right, thank you.
And Councillor Kieserbrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just curious about, I mean, it's a saving, so that's good, but I'm wondering about the decrease in debenture payment based on the region payment schedule.
I can speak to that,
Director?
Madam Mayor. So, we took on a 15-year debenture with the region, and they do have a payment schedule which shows our 2 interest and our principal payments, and based on those exact numbers, I know what we're paying, so it was just a slight decrease versus what we had to pay last year.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you. Please go ahead.
Community Services Parks.
Any questions on parks? Tab 7.
Page 74.
Sorry, what is it?
74.
74. Seeing none, move on.
Recreation and Culture, page 79.
Any questions on recreation and culture? Seeing none. Councillor Guido, you're looking...
Pardon me, Madam Mayor, I think they're mostly in capital.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kieserbrink?
So I just wanted, through you, Madam Mayor, just wanted to clarify that while we have a budget for tourism initiatives of $15,000, it's in anticipation of a RED grant where we need to be contributing our portion of that. Is that a correct understanding?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. That's in Development Services, I believe. Yeah,
You
that's
jumped.
okay.
That's okay. Okay, yes.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question, and this is likely for either Director Coleman or for Mr. Belfry, but there's additional skate patrollers for $7,000. I'm just wondering, does that mean we're increasing the amount of public skating that's available, or why are we increasing skate patrollers? I would love to have more public skating, but I'm sure that's not the answer.
Welcome, Mr. Belfry.
Thank you. Through the mayor, the councillor, it's an increase in the recreation area and a decrease in the arena rink rats. We transferred those duties of skate patrol to the recreation area and took it away from the arena attendants, so there's a decrease there and an increase in the recreation. So it's a wash, essentially.
Further?
Okay, so, but looking at the summary, I see additional skate patrollers, 7,000.
Yep. But there's also...
Oh, decrease up there.
decrease,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're not increasing the need for additional skate patrollers?
No, we're just moving it from one area in recreation to another area.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kieserbrink?
So with the lower BRC, that's Blackstock Rec Center, I guess refrigeration, repairs, and maintenance, so we've actually got some savings in that area? Just a question.
Through the mayor, the councillor, we did decrease based on looking at the last 3 years of what we've actually put out. We've done a cautious decrease, I would say, right now. We took it down a bit, but enough still left in there in case we have to deal with anything, so, but...
Anything further? Okay, thank you. Tab 9 and page...
Page 89, Development Services.
89. Questions or comments? Councillor Kesebrink.
And now I'll ask that question. So with respect to the tourism initiatives, it's in anticipation of, has the grant already been applied for and we're waiting to hear back? Is that the status?
Mr. CEO?
Thank you. Through the mayor, yes, this particular line item is with respect to rural economic development, i.e. RED grant that the municipality applied for last fall. We should hear an answer to this the March-April timeline, we're told. So yes, you're correct. The 15,000 is our 50 cent dollar contribution to the total grant of 30,000. And that this grant was with respect to implementing tourism initiatives in the Scugog Community Tourism Plan, and to help pay for a tourism coordinator part-time to continue that implementation of that plan.
So then, if the grant is not received, these monies will still be utilized for the purpose of advancing the strategies of the approved community tourism plan, as well as moving towards the tourism coordinator, is that correct?
Through the mayor, it's dedicated to this grant, and should the grant not proceed, then these funds will not be spent unless, I think as you're maybe alluding to, the Tourism Advisory Committee were to request these funds be redirected for another purpose, but that would need to come back to this council, and council would need to approve that allocation since it's not for the intended purpose in the budget.
Okay. Anything further? Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The increase in caretaking costs to include G1, prior to this change in budget, were we not responsible for that unit?
To you, Madam Mayor, I don't believe so. We would bill them for common elements, like the hallway and the elevator, but not to clean their unit. This increase is for the municipal building, including that. So we do anticipate, we're going to go out to tender, but we do anticipate that the cost will go up because we did have a really economical service prior to this, which was about 3 years ago that tender was done.
Okay, so if I understood correctly, prior to this, we did not pay to clean, is it the Scugog Council for the Arts?
To you, Madam Mayor, that is my understanding.
Mr. CEO?
Through the mayor, I don't believe that we paid much, if we paid anything. The Scugog Council for the Arts has made this request primarily because the public washroom component of the building. Yeah, and they're saying that they're getting traffic for the public washrooms. The washrooms are getting dirty, and the place is a little more dirty than it used to be. I think they used to do most of their cleaning themselves. As the treasurer mentioned, what we've done corporately is we have a combined tender out now for the library, the fire hall, and the municipal office, where they were separate contracts in the past, hoping to get a better economies of scale and a better price. This was an estimate that we had just to inform the budget in terms of what it would cost annually to provide the cleaning services for G1 for them. Also, the Scugog Council for the Arts will be coming back before council, I believe on March the 4th, with some additional requests, and if council wanted to discuss this matter further with them, they could raise it at that time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, we have a lease agreement. Is that what we have with the Scugog Council for the Arts currently?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I've had a meeting with the, would it be the executive president? And searched the files. I can't find an agreement, but I have found some reports through the past 10 years on how this came about and the arrangement that was made with them. But I couldn't find a formal agreement, and neither could they. So that is one of the things they're looking at, is to formalize a memorandum of understanding or a lease agreement of some type, and they have a proposal they want to talk to council about. Like I say, they're going to come forward in, I believe it's March the 4th or early March.
Thank you. I am uncomfortable that they're, how do I say this correctly? The reimbursement for the space is less than what we would typically charge anyone else to use that space, and now we're going to incur costs to do cleaning for that space.
Good point.
If I may, Madam Mayor, that full $10,300 is not just for that space. We're anticipating an increase in the full contract.
Oh, pardon me, I misunderstood, but is it possible to find out what the portion is for,
It
that
would be
space?
built into the full tender. I'm not sure that it would, we can look to see if it's been identified, but...
Footage or something.
Through the mayor, we can look at that when this comes back perhaps and see, but as the treasurer mentioned, we won't know for sure until the tender comes back and they break down the cost for those specific areas. But I'm glad you mentioned that. This isn't all for G1, and I failed to mention that. There is a portion of this. We're looking for a little bit better cleaning of those facilities than we've had in the past also, and we've spec'd it out that way in the tender.
Thank you. It may just be good to have that data before they come before us to ask for whatever they're looking for. Thank you.
Anything further on development services? Councillor McDougall?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. A question, I see that we had a temporary senior building inspector.
Yes?
Is that due to increased building that was going on?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So last year...
Maybe Director Heritage?
Okay.
Who wants to answer it?
Through last year's budget, it was indicated that we were expecting a growth spurt, that we needed additional staffing. The growth that was anticipated didn't come forward. So currently, the individual who was hired as a temporary senior building inspector is now holding the temporary chief building official position. But between himself and the building inspector, they seem to be able to accommodate the inspections.
Director Heritage, did you want to add something?
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, that's sufficient. A sufficient explanation. Thank you.
Councillor McDougall, okay.
And further to that, a question through Madam Mayor is, I see an engineering technician was transferred in underneath Development Services, which is basically the same number as it's more than the building inspector. So will we expect that there'll be an additional position added should building pick up?
Through you, Madam Mayor. That would be up for the director to determine if it's required. The engineering technician actually was just a transfer. It was last year in the Public Works section, so however reported mostly to the Director of Development Services, so that position was actually transferred over. So you'll see it's noted under the budget neutral. So you'll see there should be a credit of $88,300 under Public Works.
Director Heritage, did you wish to add?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes. The engineering technician does a lot of subdivision work, and it was found that a lot of that work, and he was reporting to me generally, so it was determined that it was appropriate to move that position from Public Works to Development Services.
Further?
Very good. So I guess through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Heritage, should building pick up, will we need to pick up another building inspector, or that's undetermined?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, that's undetermined at this point in time. As Director Valentin had indicated, we've got sufficient personnel in building at this point in time to handle the building permits that are coming through the department.
Okay, Mr. CAO, did you want to add?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add further that the funds for this position are paid for, would be paid for through the building reserve. So they don't have a hit on the general levy. They come out of building permit fees.
Any further questions? Councillor Kiesbrink?
I'm just wondering about the, there's a mention here that we have a lower dog and cat license revenue with the elimination of door-to-door sales. If you could perhaps speak to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, we now have the DocuPet service that services both the Township of Uxbridge and the Township of Scugog. So residents now have the ability to go online to obtain licenses for their animals.
Okay. Anything further under development services? Okay, moving on.
And finally, the library services, page 94.
Anything under library services? We have our CEO here. Councillor McDougall?
Sorry, did I miss Parks?
Yes, you did.
Sorry, thank you. That's okay, that's all.
Nothing for library services? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Thank you, Madam CEO. Moving on. So,
did you want to ask a question on Parks? No? Okay.
No, you're okay? Okay. So, we're ready for capital now? So, any further questions for operating at all? Councillor McDougall?
I have one question on operating, and I'm not exactly sure. I think it's for Director Valentine. The 2018 budget, or sorry, 2017 budget had a debenture in it for Connecting Canadians, I think it was. What happened to that debenture?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
It might have been a budget allocation for an anticipated, but we never went forward with that debenture that I'm aware of.
Is that broadband you're talking about?
Yeah, it was for the broadband strategy for the island, I believe. But I just asked the question because I didn't.
Through you, Mayor, that was considered and discussed by council, but at the end of the day, I'm not aware of any action taken in that regard through the budget, or a formal debenture process request from the region. It just didn't get that far.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. No further questions for operating. We'll move on to capital.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Current slide. So moving on to capital. So the capital budget, in determining the capital program, there are several items that are taken into consideration. Council's priority list of items, mitigation of risk to decrease the liability and increase safety, any legislative requirements we need to link to our asset management plan, receipt of confirmed or potential grant funding, growth-related projects, and we look to the strategic plan. We also look to increased efficiency and cost reduction, synergies with other organizations. Any funding restrictions could prohibit projects from moving forward. Recommendations through our roads needs study, which is done every 3 to 5 years. Road classifications, maintenance costs, and traffic volumes. So the revenue assumptions that are built into this capital budget and 4-year forecast for each of the various reserve funds. Federal gas tax was a 10-year agreement, and we just are getting into the last 5 years of our agreement. Unfortunate for us, here in Scugog, the allocation of the federal gas tax is based on census information. So we haven't grown much in the past, and our proportionate share does not grow along with that. So what's built into there is what the federal government has provided as our allocation, so that's been built into this budget and forecast. Environmental solar revenue into the reserve, we've received $50,000 annually from SunEdison, and that will continue until 2034. The OCIF grant revenue has been allocated here, and we know those numbers until 2020. Past that, we're not sure if we will continue to get that grant. OLG Municipal Service Agreement, so the funding that we receive from OLG is actually based on the 2018 receipt. So part of our agreement with them is that it will be indexed, so we should receive more moving forward. The other caveat that was put into the agreement had to do with the expansion. So this will give us an opportunity to review the revenues that we receive from them. We have higher revenues going into the reserves from this. The other revenue assumptions that are built into this are budget allocations coming out of your operating budget. I've assumed that the roads levy will continue to grow 1% per year. The new vehicle and equipment allocation is 5.5% for 2019, looking to grow it at 1% annually thereafter, and looking to build a building and facilities allocation beginning in 2020 at 0.5% and then growing to 1% annually. These budget allocations do come back or stem back from our reserve fund strategy that was presented to Council in December of 2018. The subdividers' contributions that are built into this budget and forecast are based on the development projections provided by Development Services, and they're based on the current development charge rate that's in place right now. And we are bringing forward a background study in the next month to bring forward to Council and to the public based on the new charge. So if the charge does go up, we could potentially have more revenue under development charges as well. The total proposed budget, capital budget for 2019 is $4.3 million. It's identified, broken down in these various asset categories. Roads and sidewalks, $2.27 million. Bridges and culverts, $325,000. Vehicles and equipment, $577,000, and that does include the cost of a new grader, which will help service the roads. Building and facilities maintenance, $552,000. Parks, $295,000. Parking lots, piers, stormwater management, $25,000. Studies and other initiatives, $194,000, and computer hardware software, $62,000. So graphically, this is how your budget is broken down. So roads specifically, 53%. There is a portion of vehicles, the grader, as I mentioned, that is allocated as well. That is specific to roads when we talk about that $3 million, the $2.7 million. But graphically, this is where the bulk of the capital budget is being allocated. The draft budget also, this shows how this $4.3 million is being funded. $2.5 million is coming from reserves, $1.5 million from various grants, including the federal gas tax, the OCIF, and then $233,000 from other contributions. Major capital projects that are listed in our budget for 2019 include Marshall Road rehabilitation, Aldred Drive, that's phase 4 of a multi-phase project, Ciceria Road resurfacing, again, phase 3 of a multi-year project, culvert relining and replacement, this includes 3 culverts, Cartwright West Quarterline Rural Rehabilitation, the second access to Scugog Island, and EA, an update of the design is projected to start in 2019. Union Avenue reconstruction design, and the continuation of sidewalk reconstruction, where we've built in $100,000 per year, multi-phase as well. Some of the parks include Cartwright Ball Diamond lighting replacement and playground replacements. The one identified for 2019 is Poplar Park. Building facilities in this capital budget include a Blackstock Arena preliminary design and public consultation, and museum schoolhouse renovations. Vehicles equipment, as mentioned, replacement of a grader, a fuel tracking system at our depot and our 2 of our depots, and replacement of spin bikes. We continue to invest in our Lake Scugog Enhancer project. The town's contribution is $25,000, and we have some computer hardware software upgrades that we've identified through the township office as well as in the library, and upgrade to the AV equipment here in council chambers. So the projects identified in the forecast are projects that are approved in principle only. Projects are identified are based on the current revenue assumptions that I spoke to you about, and they will be reviewed annually and updated based on priorities, based on funding availability. So consideration for future capital projects will be based on those things. And that's my presentation on the capital.
Thank you. Now, staff have given us these sheets. I can't remember I don't know the page numbers, but first pages of the capital budget. And you will notice that there are letters and numbers. For instance, the Comprehensive Waterfront Plan is DEV 015, and you will find the project descriptions in the following pages, and I find them very helpful
Thank
indeed.
you.
So thank you very much for doing that. Are there any questions for capital? Councillor Kieserbrink?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just wondering, what is it about our council audio-visual equipment that needs to be, I can hear myself right now, so just wanted to know where that 16,000 is going to. Okay, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can try and answer a little bit. Our clerk may be able to better answer, but I think additional screens are required for the viewing, the spectators, because the screens aren't sufficient, but the taping mechanism as well, uploading onto YouTube is not the best at this point, that they're looking for upgrades there.
Pardon? Do you want to go by department, folks? I think it'd probably be easier. Councillor Guido, are you willing to wait till we
I
get
can
to your
wait, yes,
department?
thank you.
Okay, so how about capital projects, COR, the first one. What is that COR? What is that? Corporate projects, the first tab. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay. Did you want to have anything more to say about the AV equipment? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through to Council. So it is described in the sheet, I guess, in front of you, but we did receive some complaints last term about the quality of the AV equipment. Upon inspection from our manager of IT, he has indicated that it is a very basic system, so we're looking to upgrade it. There's a mixer that's proposed just to help better the recording. There's also, it takes an inordinate amount of time to process our videos to YouTube through this recording system, so that's another item that it takes days to process. Our manager of communications initiatives will set the program tonight so that it's ready for tomorrow morning. Sometimes it fails, and then we have to do the whole thing again. So it's a very, very long process that doesn't work 100% of the time, so we're looking to make that more efficient as well. We'd like to provide additional screens, because we have had comments that the people at the back in the audience maybe can't see those screens very well, so there is a suggestion to put additional screens so that the audience can see a little bit better also. And also included in that is an extension of this closet here in order to facilitate our IT backup system in a flood-proof area, whereas the basement is not flood-proof. So it's multiple layers within that project, all housed within this room, council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. And it comes from Municipal Projects Reserves, you see on the bottom of the page there. Anything further on capital projects? Councillor Watton?
Thank you, and if I might, I just wonder on several of the projects to do with the IT, it speaks to selling of the old equipment. Do we have a market for that? Or
through you, Madam Mayor, our IT manager has been able to sell some of our old equipment and cables and things. So yes, we have received revenue on some of our scraps.
That's good news. Yay. Anything further? Okay, moving on to development services. Questions? Councilor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding the buyout for the animal shelter, the assumption should be that if the project doesn't go forward this year, then that this will be moved to 2020 then? The buyout? Like if we don't move out of the facility this year, it'll be moved to 2020?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. So this is a placeholder for this budget allocation. It was agreed upon with the Township of Uxbridge when they vacate, if and when they vacate that facility, that we owe them that proportionate share.
Okay, and they'll never, if it takes another year, will they come back and ask for another assessment on the value, or is this a value that we've agreed upon and it doesn't change depending on how long it takes us to vacate?
Through you, Madam Mayor, as far as I know, it's been an agreed upon number.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Further on development services? Okay, moving on to fire and emergency services. Any questions on those projects? No? Okay. And parks. Councilor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. An overall question to Director Coleman. First of all, I'm thrilled to see that we are investing in the restoration and the implementation of some very needed parks in some of our existing subdivisions. But the new build parks speak specifically to asking for public feedback, whereas the refurbishment of Poplar Park or Palmer Park doesn't specify that we are going to seek public opinion or feedback on what they would like in that park. Do we only seek that when we're building brand new, or will we ask for their feedback for the enhancements?
To you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Last year when we did replace Perry Glen Park, we did get feedback from the community about the age level that we should build for and what they wanted, and we added a half-court basketball court as a result of that. So we will do public consultation. It won't be as detailed as it would be for a new park, because we have more options for a new park. Right. But for an existing park, public consultation will be part of it.
Thank you. I'm very appreciative of that, and I really can't wait for the new parks. My next question is in regards to the two different ball diamonds that are looking for some lighting enhancements. We have Cartwright and we have Carolyn Best. My question is one ball diamond, and I know they're both dependent on a grant, but my question is, one is set to go forward in 2019, and the other one, I want to say, is 2022. How did we determine which one need is greater than the other for these ball diamonds?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. They're in that order because Cartwright approached us first with their own funding to support it. So, and they were applying for the grant first, and then they applied for a grant for this year. We've actually learned that they haven't got a grant for the first application, but there's another intake in June, so they're still hoping that they will get grant money this year and proceed. And it's just that the other one came after, and it's just where it fit in the budget.
Okay, and has the other one applied for a grant?
To my knowledge, they have not applied for a grant yet.
Okay, and then the field, it says it'll be joint with the Township Field of Dreams and a grant from Trillium, so my assumption is Field of Dreams would have already started fundraising as well.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor, yes, they have started fundraising as well.
Okay, so if they apply for a grant and theirs is successful prior to Cartwright, then would we proceed, or we've already determined that Cartwright is first?
I think we would have to see what happens first. If they got a grant, I hope that they would tell us they were applying for a grant so we could plan for it in our budgeting first.
Sure.
But if they bring it unbudgeted, we'd have to bring that back to council for a decision.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Director Heritage, you wanted to add something about the playground equipment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to go back to the first question that Councillor Guido had raised in terms of the public washroom along the waterfront. For our listening audience, I just wanted to confirm that that issue will be dealt with or confirmed through the waterfront, comprehensive waterfront strategy.
Thank you, Director Heritage. I guess you were reading my mind. I wasn't asking about the washroom, but I am a very big advocate for the washroom in the park, so thank you.
You're one jump ahead of us. Any other questions on parks? Councillor McDougall?
I've had some questions from residents up in Seagrave, and I know that we're looking at playground replacement. They don't particularly have a lot of playground equipment to be replaced, and I think the amount of playground equipment that they have is not a lot. They're asking for a possible investment into their playground, not necessarily a replacement of that playground. Where would that stand in terms of our forecast? Maybe through to Director
Please.
Coleman.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. We are considering Seagrave Park in our prioritization of parks, and they're up there fairly high, partly because they have less equipment than some of the other parks. We're trying to do one playground per year. Right now, though, we've only put 3 playgrounds in the budget and forecast because we're not sure how much revenue we're going to get into the Parks Reserve. Right now, our budget shows no revenue in that reserve, but we expect that there will be over time, so I'm hoping next year we'll have some additional revenue and I can add another project and another project, so there will be one each year. And Seagrave is, after these 3 parks, pretty high on the priority list, so they should be coming up soon.
Okay, further?
Very good. And as well, I wanted to ask a question on the dog park, which is budgeted at $45,000. Do we have a landing spot for that dog park, and did we identify the need through the website and the questionnaires, or?
Director Coleman.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, I have taken a look at several areas in the township and have one suggestion for a dog park area. I would like to bring it to public consultation and get feedback on it. The area that I think we should consider is the area between the Carolyn Best parking lot and the soccer fields. That wooded area there where Parks right now maintains a trail system by cutting grass through there. I think that would be a very good location for a dog park, but it wouldn't be confirmed 100% until we go through a public consultation process.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kieserbrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the $45,000 that we're speaking of in the budget for the dog park does in fact include not just consultation process, but the actual full construction and completion of that dog park. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes. The consultation will just be staff time, so there's no real cost to that. The costs we've included there include fencing. Usually when you have a dog park, you have a smaller fenced area for small dogs so they can have an area away from larger dogs. Some fencing around the perimeter, some improvements to the parking lot, and signage is what the budget includes.
So if it comes in less than that, then that just stays in the budget for other projects?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. So if we budget $45,000 and we spend $35,000, then that $10,000 will go back to whatever reserve it came from, and then it will be considered for next year's capital budget.
Further? Okay, moving on to...
Sorry.
Sorry?
If I might, I'd like to go back and stay on parks for 1 second. In the 2017 capital budget, there was a projection for 2018 for $350,000 towards a Port Perry skate park to land in Ward 1 or 5, it says. What happened to that?
Councillor, or Director Coleman.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, when we prioritize projects through the next year, it didn't come up as a priority. There wasn't much public push for it. It didn't come up in the recreation master plan as a high priority, so it hasn't been included at this point. And it's a significant amount of money.
Further?
Very good, that's all, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Public Works. Questions on any of these projects? No questions? Councillor Watton?
Thank you. If I might, just, I'll direct this question to Director Coleman. I'm curious that we seem to be doing portions of roads in 1 year and then doing another portion in the next. And I respect that we don't maybe have the money to do all of that one road. But if we're doing, i.e., say, Cartwright West Quarter Line, one section, and we're doing Marsh Hill Road, one section, and we're doing something else, one section, all in 2019, and then the next year we're doing another section of all 3, wouldn't it make more sense to do just the one road and do the next one in 2020 and the next one in 2021? Is it not more cost efficient?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, there's a number of reasons why we do them in phases, but we are trying to work towards, as we build our funds available for road work, we are trying to make them larger phases, because there are economies of scale to do that. Some of the reasons we're doing it in smaller phases right now is just the cash flow, what we have available. Some prior multi-year projects that were phased, we still have to have enough money to do those ones, so we don't have enough money to put towards some other ones. Cartwright West Quarter Line, it's actually 1.4 kilometers we're doing this year, which isn't a bad number for economies of scale. I think we can get good prices with that. And then the next phase is almost 3 kilometers long, so that will be a much longer phase. So we do look at that. It's less work for us if it's one project. We also look at making sure we spread things around the township, so it's not all in one area, but try to help all residents. So there's a number of factors we look at.
Thank you. I was just more curious if, for the cost, if we might save some doing it.
Further questions on Public Works? Councillor McDougall.
I think through you, Madam Mayor, question for Director Coleman. Looking at the Marsh Hill Road at 710,000, reading the sheet, it appears to be an asphalt paving. I don't believe it's ever been an asphalt pavement before. Would we get more bang for our buck if we were to do high flow and perhaps do more of the road?
I'll ask Mr. Arsenault to answer this one.
Thank you, Kevin.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. That's an opportunity. However, we're trying to stay away from a double high float surface in low speed, high volume turning movement type situations. We do find that it tears up when someone's turning in their driveway, that type of situation. So anywhere where we have a hamlet or a high population density, we're trying to go to an asphalt surface. Now we have 710 in there for base and surface. If through the process we find that maybe a single lift or an R1 surface treatment of 60 mil of HL3 is ideal, we'll go that route.
Further?
Through you, Madam Mayor, so if I understand correctly, i.e. in Greenbank or Nestleton or in the hamlets itself, you're trying to do asphalt and not high flow?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further under Public Works? Councilor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While Mr. Arsenault was there, I would just like, no, don't worry, I would just like to thank you for including the path from Simcoe to Blossom Court. That is a very much appreciated and needed addition, so thank you.
You can take the credit for that. Anything further?
Sorry, further on that.
It's okay, you only get 2 kicks at the gavel.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I can't say thank you enough on all the sidewalk improvements, because as we knock on doors, whether it be in Greenbank or wherever we go, we hear good things on that, and it seems to get a lot of bang for our buck. Thank you.
Councillor Kiesebrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also wanted to thank you for including the environmental assessment and design for the replacement of bridge number 13 on Job Road. I think by staying ahead of the game and keeping track of things before the bridge deteriorates and gets closed, that's what we want to avoid. So I'm happy to see the various proactive measures that we're trying to build into this budget. I think it's wonderful.
We applied for grants for Job Road. So many times I suggested that maybe we change the name of the bridge so we could get a grant. Anything further? Councillor Brown?
Just a sidewalks question, and it's probably a lot like the roads, and I hope it's an appropriate time to ask this question of Director Coleman, but I'm sure that you have a protocol for doing sidewalks as well. What I've been told in Ward 5 is that sometimes there's a sidewalk that's broken, and the next thing they know, there's no sidewalk anymore, and kids are walking to the school, high school in particular, on the street, or people who need accessibility or have accessibility issues have to move their carts or their vehicles on the road as opposed to the sidewalk. So can you just sort of clarify the protocol, the plan for that, or I'm not sure if it's you then.
Mr. Arsenault?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. There has been times when sidewalks have been removed in the past, and unfortunately, it comes down to cost. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but typically they're in such bad state or they're so old that they're just beyond repair, and they may not even go the full block. They may be 5 or 6 bays here and there. Those do end up getting removed. They are listed as infill sections that we'd love to replace or upgrade. It's just a matter of funding. Thank you.
Plan on getting there sooner or later, Boyd?
Yes.
Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I apologize if this was asked while I was out of the council chambers, but in regards to the roads needs study, first of all, thank you, because it's been 8 years, and the needs, I'm sure, have changed drastically in those 8 years. So to Councillor Brown's point a while back about how do you get a road done, this, I think, will be the answer of having a more comprehensive and up-to-date list. When will that be coming back to council? And once that is an approved list, can we please, and I think I asked this a few years ago, can we please put it on the website if it's not already there, so that residents can go on the website and say, I'm on Old Simcoe and it's forecasted 5 years. At least they know it's eventually coming.
Director Coleman.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Our current schedule has it bringing this study to council in September of this year. As for putting on the website, it's not that straightforward. And the last one actually was done in 2014. I'm not sure what the sheet says.
2011.
Okay. Sorry, there was another one done in 2014 as well. It wasn't quite as in-depth. And that one showed there was 59 kilometers of road in now need. Now, we don't have the funding to do that, so just because it's in the now list doesn't mean that we can do that road. And even ones that are in the 1 to 5 year or 5 to 10 year, they might not need full replacement, but maybe if we did a mill and overlay, we can make that one last longer. So we might do work on one of those ones instead of a now need. So I'm not sure. Like, we could put information on the website, but listing individual roads, I think, might be misleading to people. Because it's not a list that says, we're going to do, this is 100 roads, this is the order we're going to do them in. It's not that straightforward.
But the roads needs study will provide a listing of the roads that are in need?
It will, yes.
With its priority, a current priority?
It just shows, like, all 59 kilometers would be at the same priority. It doesn't rank them.
So then how does staff then take the 59 kilometers all listed at the same priority to determine what road is priority 1, 2, or 3?
So that's where all the other factors come into play. That's when we start looking at what the class of the road is, what the volume of the road is, what the maintenance costs are there synergies with other people that we can get funding for.
So what this will do is we'll update the roads that are in need, and then from there staff still needs to review as far as what roads priorities will be.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if you look on page 39 of your agenda, it lists how the priorities are further determined. Pardon? Yeah. Yeah, there's, on the budget outline, there's the roads that are going to be done in the next 5 years.
Oh, yes, no, Madam Mayor, I'm well aware of that. I meant, I'm sure there's roads that aren't on the 5-year forecast, but are definitely in need.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking, about how you look at all of the roads in the municipality, understanding that we can never in a 5-year forecast include them. That was my question.
Ian has 2 questions already. Councillor McDougall, is this number 3?
On which topic, sorry?
Public Works.
Do I only get
ahead.
2 questions on Public Works, or can I have 2 on each topic in Public Works?
Go ahead. Just keep it in mind. Try and get all of your questions at the same time.
I'm sorry, I've had
Go ahead.
4 whole days with the entire operating and capital budget. My question to Director Coleman or Diane is, how much do we need to budget annually towards our capital costs and roads for operating and capital to maintain our status quo so that our roads are not moving backwards?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't have the answer to that. I know that we're in a significant deficit, so we want to get out of that deficit, which is why we are putting money from our operating towards our capital through the roads levy. When the study was done in 2014 and the asset management plan, we had an infrastructure deficit of $141 million. So we wouldn't want to keep status quo. We do need to keep building towards improving those, and we do need to build towards financial sustainability. So we have to keep putting money towards the roads to shrink that deficit.
Councillor McDougall, we are moving forward on this. In this budget, we are making headway now. And there's no way, I mean, there are other priorities as well in the township, services and parks and sidewalks and everything else. So, you know, we also have to pay attention to that, but we are certainly moving in the right direction in attacking this roads deficit in this budget. Okay?
Very good, thank you.
Any further questions in Public Works? Okay, moving on. Thank you. Recreation and Culture? No questions for Recreation and Culture? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to Library. Any questions for Library? Seeing none, we'll move to the financing portion. Director Valentin, do you have anything you want to say about this, or?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this section of the capital budget identifies the various financing areas that are funding the capital projects. So if you do look onto the website, all of these, the blue lettering are hyperlinks to various other pages. So this is just another snapshot of how the capital detail sheets, how everything is being funded. So the first section is a project listing, which identifies the projects by asset type, so by roads, by bridges. This is another section which actually splits out the projects and how they're being funded. So this actually shows, this particular page will show all of the projects that are funded in part or in its entirety from the roads and other infrastructure reserves. So you can see this year we have identified $665,000 worth of roads coming out of this specific reserve. So basically the financing summary identifies the various areas where the funding is coming out of. So if anyone is curious as to how something's being funded, it is identified on each project detail sheet, but it's also summarized here. The one other section that unfortunately is not particularly in this, it's posted on our website right now, duty schedule, which shows the various reserves, their opening balances, the revenue sources that go in, and the capital projects coming out. So we will have those for the final. It is also, if I can pull it up really quickly, on our budget sheet. Okay. So the last few pages do show continuity schedules, which identify the various reserves, their opening balances, and it shows the 5-year continuity. And that's my budget.
Wow. Councillor Guile.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I may have missed it in all of the items in here. Where is the donation to the hospice?
So through you, Madam Mayor. So what I've presented to you in an operating budget is a change year over year. So it doesn't specifically identify funding that has been in. So what we've done with the hospice, it is included in the operating budget. Last year in 2018 was the last year of the hospital allocation. So there was a 4-year grant allocated to the hospital of $37,500 per year for a total of $150,000. The hospice grant has actually taken over that placeholder, if you will, in the budget. So it is identified in the budget as $37,500 for 2019.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further on this last portion? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank my CAO and all the directors who helped put this through budget forward. I think it's a very responsible budget, and we've put a lot of time and effort into it, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Valentin, and all of your staff. And this budget is here tonight for information. I know that staff has been listening to all of your comments, and it will be online, and we will be getting comments from the public, and then at the public information night next week. And in the meantime, what has happened so far is that our staff has taken all that they've heard from Speak Up Durham, and Speak Up Durham specifically was looking for input on the strat plan and our priorities, but and certainly the past council and this council's wish list. They went over the budget line by line. We set them an absolute maximum target of 3.9. This budget comes in at 3.9, and so that's where we're standing right now, and we'll wait for public input, and then we will make adjustments if necessary, and then move on from there, and hopefully on March the 4th pass a budget. So I'm looking for a motion, please, that the delegation by Director of Finance and Treasurer Diane Valentin, that the 2019 draft operating and capital budget be received. Councillor Watton, Councillor Kiesebrink, questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, and to all of staff. Whew. So, do we want to have a break? Okay, how about we have a 10-minute break? Okay, we'll return at 25 after. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and we're now at number 9, the consent agenda. So, are there any polls? I have 9.2.2, 9.2.3, and 9.2.4, and 9.4. Are there any other polls? Councillor Guido?
9.1.4, please. Did you say that one already? Sorry,
no, it didn't.
Council, okay, 9.1.4, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any others? Uh-huh. I'm sorry, just 9.4, number 1519. Sorry about that, yeah. Okay, may I have a motion to the other item? Councillor Watton, Councillor Guido, all those in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to 9.1.4, council minutes. Is that you, Councillor Watton?
No.
It's on page 13. I'm sorry,
that was
Councillor
me.
Guido, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get there as fast as I can, but with tomorrow being the BIA AGM, I was wondering if we could get an update if we received the action items that they were due to provide, and I believe it was page 18, but I'm just trying to get there. Yes, it was page 18 of our agenda. We were looking for confirmation that all members of the Port Perry BIA have been notified of the election. I would like to ask that, and if we've received the mailing list.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through to Council. I did receive that information, yes.
Yes.
I received confirmation that the email to all the members through the Constant Contact program was sent out. It does appear that I've been included in that email blast now, and I did receive a Excel spreadsheet of all the members.
Wonderful, and hopefully the 25 centimeters of snow expected for tomorrow is not going to stop people from going to the AGM now.
That's very true. Okay, thank you. May I have a mover for that? Councillor Watton, Councillor Guido. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried, thank you. 9.2.2, on page 235, the council list of items. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, I pulled that. Sorry, I'm just gonna flip to it now. Sorry. Thank you. I pulled that mainly because this was the first opportunity I had to actually look at what all my fellow councillors had listed as priority items. And I wanted to thank staff for sharing this with us, because I thought there was a lot of good items that might help us prioritize for next year's budget what is where. For example, somebody had identified the Williams Creek culvert, I believe, beneath the, well, I call it the IGA still. But that, I think that would probably be a relatively important item. But I just wanted to say thank you on sharing this list. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question in regards to the priority for, I just had it here, Crandall Street, for the road reconstruction. I 100% appreciate that budget constraints and everything, but I would like to ask the chief of police.
I did that.
Chief of whoever you want to be, Chief Fire and Emergency Services. It's not included in the 5-year forecast right now. Are there any concerns from your department for that street, given that your firehouse is located on that street?
Through you, Madam
Chief?
Mayor, to the councillor. I'd love a smooth road out in front of the station, but with all due respect to the amount of travel that we actually do, perhaps to the south, I'm not so much concerned. And then to the north, you know, I mean, yes, we do have to take it a little bit slower until we get out onto Simcoe or what have you. You know, it is a bumpy road, no two ways about it, and big trucks and bumpy roads don't work well together. So. But
there's no concern. I shouldn't say there's no concern, but the level of concern for your response time, that doesn't factor in? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any further questions? I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor McDougall, Councillor Guido, all those in favor? And that's carried, thank you. 9.2.3 on page 245. Councillor McDougall, you have a conflict with that. That is noted, thank you. Are there any questions on this item? To page 245, Councillor Kiesebrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just was wondering, there's a staff recommendation in 2.1 under employment planning that lower tier municipalities have the ability to designate additional employment lands prior to a municipal comprehensive review in conformity with an upper tier plan. That's one of the recommendations that's not actually referenced in the initial recommendation summary that's made at the beginning of this proposed amendment, and I feel like that should be added to the summary because it's a really valid staff recommendation. Other than that, I think it should be submitted.
Thank you. Director Heritage, any comments on that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the councillor. Councillor Kiesebrink and I had an earlier discussion today regarding that proposal, and I agree with that amendment being made to the recommendation section in the report.
Have we got a wording for that amendment? Oh, you don't? You don't. Can we get some wording on that amendment to our recommendations? No, I'm sorry, are you talking about an amendment to the recommendation here in the report, or is it?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The, in section 2.1 under employment planning, the second sentence, staff recommend that lower tier municipalities have the ability to designate additional employment lands prior to a municipal comprehensive review to in conformity with an upper tier plan. That wording can basically be included within the recommendation section.
Okay, do you have that? Okay. It's on page 247. Okay. The motion has not been made yet, so do we have to have we don't have to have an amendment, do we? No. Okay, so did you wish to make the motion with that amendment? Okay. Everybody understand that? Everybody understand? Okay. Okay. Any other questions? So we have a mover, a seconder? Okay, but we'll get a seconder first, get it on the floor. Seconder? Councillor Watton, questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Heritage, can you, this is, could be perceived as quite a significant stance that Scugog is taking. Can you please explain to me why we feel it necessary to provide this feedback to the province? And also, why would the province have not included this in their initial proposed amendment?
Director Heritage.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. What the province is proposing in Amendment 1 to the growth plan is that municipalities that have an adjacent white belt to their urban boundaries, so they're not immediately abutting the green belt, have the opportunity to make adjustments to their urban boundary outside of a municipal comprehensive review. And a municipal comprehensive review in an upper tier, in a two-tier system, is the region, in this case, the region of Durham, undertaking a municipal comprehensive review of their official plan. In the Scugog case, the township of Scugog has no white belt. The urban areas immediately abut the green belt. So we have no ability to, in the future, to expand our urban area boundaries. The only development that we will see is on greenfield lands that are remaining, as well as through intensification. And in terms of intensification, we're extremely limited in terms of building heights within the municipality because of servicing constraints. So that's the intent in terms of providing some additional flexibility at some future date. Now, going through that process, future studies will be required, as well as amendments to the Durham Regional Official Plan, the local official plan, and the zoning bylaw. So it will be a full public process if any minor boundary expansions are considered by the township.
Further?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. So this is for the future, should the need be there. Right now, would you say that we have sufficient space, or is this for future planning?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, this is for future planning, to give us the opportunity at some future date, if it's felt that there is a warrant to expand the boundary, that we've expended our greenfield lands and we've intensified the lands within the urban boundary.
But as of today, we have sufficient space?
I'm speaking specifically with regards to, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm specifically speaking about Port Perry, yes.
Okay. And through you, Madam Mayor, the process for these comments, we're submitting them, if this goes through, it gets submitted to the province, and then they will review and may or may not include it? Or how do we as a municipality find out what their decision is on this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, this is just a proposal that's been put forward by the province. They've circulated the proposal to the area municipalities in the province. The deadline date for providing comments is February 28th. So we're providing our comments. Our staff is bringing a report forward to this council meeting at this point in time, because there are no other council meetings between now and February 28th. The province will respond to comments that are made by area municipalities, and ultimately we will find out whether they're in support of proceeding with this amendment or not.
And as of yet, we still don't have an idea as to how the other two northern municipalities, how they feel?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, no, I'm not aware.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Brown?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and to the Director, I'm just going to read from what I see in front of me here. I've got a couple of questions anyway, so bear with me. Policies are provided which would provide the region and the township the ability to convert employment areas to non-employment uses. Is there a concrete plan by you to do that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, no, there is not at this point in time. The township has a significant employment area that's primarily vacant, primarily due to servicing constraints, and we're actively working with the region of Durham to bring servicing forward in terms of a pumping station that we can open up more of those lands for development.
Okay, and again, if I may,
Mhm.
through you, Madam Mayor, an additional policy has been included to allow municipalities to expand up to 40 hectares, which is around 100 acres, if I understand that right?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Without a comprehensive review, but these policies are prohibited if the township is within the green belt. So I can presume that there's no 40 hectares for us.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, that's correct.
And one final question, if I may, Madam Mayor. Staff is recommending that minor rural settlement area adjustments be permitted within the green belt. Now, I don't know that that's possible to begin with, but I'd like to know what minor means in that case.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, minor rural settlement expansions is dealing with minor expansions to our hamlets. In terms of the degree of minor, that would be evaluated on its own merits depending on the nature of the hamlet. So a substantial amount of study would be required in order to provide a recommendation back to this council should that policy adjustment be made by the province.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, just to reiterate, this is for minor adjustments. And I noticed throughout the document, you are saying, while maintaining protections for the greenbelt, agricultural lands, the agri-food sector, and natural heritage systems. Correct?
You, Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. The recommendation as amended, we have a mover and a seconder. No further questions. All those in favor? Councilor Guido, are you ready to vote, or? Yes. All those in favor? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that's 9.2.4. Councilor Watton, you have your regional report. You have it in front of you. It's a handout. Would you like to read it?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. So first off, I apologize for it being a handout and not contained in the agenda, but my excuse is it's my first one. So anyway, today I bring forward my first regional report. With just over 2 months in this position, I'm still learning my way. I hope to bring to Council's attention items from the region that will or could impact Scugog Township, some good news stories, and general information that I feel may be of interest to you and our community. On December 19th, 2018, the Social Service Department received the Canada Awards of Excellence Gold Award for the excellence, innovation, and wellness standard of their department. This prestigious award is a testament to the enthusiasm, skill, and dedication that staff put forward every day to meet the needs of the citizens through leadership, cooperation, and self-service. On another note, the 2019 property tax guideline, which you have heard already, has been targeted to not exceed an overall tax impact of 2.2%. On February 13th, the region will be hosting a budget open house at regional headquarters beginning at 7 p.m. All are invited. There has been much discussion about whether to expand or not expand the Durham York Energy Center, and staff are busy investigating what impact an anaerobic digester may have on the use of the incinerator. The need to look after the region's waste is a huge challenge and will continue to grow as we grow. I'm pleased to report that the Blackstock Landfill Rehabilitation Pilot Project is completed and will be restored with grading and natural vegetation this spring. Our CAO, Mayor Drew, and I each have had meetings with the Commissioner of Works and staff with the region's new CAO. We discussed water and sewer matters, a second access to the island, pre-servicing of employment lands, and our transit concerns, just to name a few. The region has committed to conducting a safety review of Island Road and will be conducting a pilot project for the new municipal wells and treatment facility here. Last week, Planning and Economic Development were asked to endorse in principle the Connecting Our Communities, a broadband strategy for Durham region presented by Actionable Intelligence, Inc. Completed in 2 phases, the work continues to address the need for and how to achieve excellent broadband in our rural areas. And as you know, we are growing and the region is growing rapidly. To help plan and shape Durham's future, Envision Durham was launched last week. It's intended to inform audiences and engage the public to help form the basis of a vision for Durham to 2041 and beyond. When completed, it will represent a comprehensive review of the regional official plan. So at this point, I'd like to just share a short video that they have put out as part of that launch.
Are you ready to help Durham establish a progressive vision for 2041? It's time to have your say about your future. Today, Durham is home to almost 700,000 people. Over the next 20 years, the region will grow to 1.2 million residents and 430,000 jobs. We're growing, and fast. How do we plan for this? Our regional official plan guides where and how Durham will grow. In 2019, we're kicking off Envision Durham, a municipal comprehensive review of this official plan. Through this process, we'll consider how to use and protect our land and resources, what types of housing and jobs are needed for our residents, and how people and goods will move across our region and beyond. We want to plan for an attractive place to live, work, play, grow, and invest. What's your vision for Durham? And how can we get there together? Visit durham.ca/Envision Durham to learn more on how you can get involved. Envision Durham, our region, our plan, our future.
Thank you, Sandra. So in addition to sharing this video, I'm sure that Lori can provide you the link, or it is on the Envision Durham. I ask that you share it with your residents, and also on Envision Durham there is a public survey that they are asking for people to fill out. So if you could just pass that on to your constituents, I would appreciate it, and then thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Watton, do you wish to move your report?
Sure.
Seconder, please. Councillor Kiesebrink. Questions or comments for the regional councillor? Got off lightly. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So moving on now to the bylaw number 15, bylaw 15-19, to adopt the terms of reference for the Economic Development Advisory Committee. Councillor Kiesebrink, you pulled that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to adopt a terms of reference for the Economic Development Advisory Committee, that bylaw 1519 be read a first and second time, that the Economic Development Advisory Committee terms of reference, section 2, committee composition, be amended to include one representative from the accommodation sector, and that the bylaw 1519 be read a third time and finally passed this 11th day of February 2019, and the mayor and clerk are hereby directed to sign same and affix the corporate seal thereto.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? It's an amending motion. Do you have a question, Councillor Weir? Do you want to second it first?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Your question?
Thank you, and I believe, I'm not sure, Councillor Kiesebrink, if you were made aware of the reasoning for it being initially removed, but I was under the impression that we had determined that it was best suited under, was it tourism, Mr. Clerk, and that we didn't want to specifically spell out one sector versus others. Do I have that correct?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Council. Yes, that was the original idea behind that. However, when we put the terms of reference for tourism, it was decided not to include a single organization such as the accommodation sector, because the question would then become, why didn't you include other sectors in that area? So it was decided that, and just in discussion with Director Heritage as well, that because it was originally with economic development, we would just put it back with economic development, and that's what's before you today for your decision.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. No notices of motion and any new business or general information. I did want to tell council that there is going to be a planning session. We are going to be moving ahead with the agricultural roundtable, and the CAO and I and the regional councillor, I think you're coming too, to meet with a few farmers to plan how that's going to look. So just wanted you to know that we are going to be moving ahead with that this spring. Okay, no other new business or general information? No closed session. Confirming bylaw. Bylaw number 2619, confirming the proceedings of the regular council meeting held this day be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 11th day of February 2019. The mayor and clerk hereby authorized to sign, name, and affix the corporate seal thereof. Mover, please. Councillor Brown, Councillor Watton, all those in favor? That's carried. Adjournment. Councillor Guido, Councillor Kiesebrink, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, everyone. Missed it by 25 minutes.